The Choice Factory is a book about how you apply findings from social psychology or behavioural science to advertising, and it's made up of 25 different chapters. Each chapter revolves around a decision a person makes. So, for example, should they give money to a beggar or not? Should they have red wine or white wine? Should they hire someone at a job interview? That decision is then explained with reference to a classic bias. That's anchoring or the pratfall effect or social proof. And I look at the academic evidence for that bias. Then the bulk of the chapter is experiments I've done to prove that those biases still operate today and can be used commercially by brands. And then the final part, and the bulk of the chapter is, well, now you know this bias and exists and it's relevant, this is what you as a marketer should do differently, how you can apply it. Behavioural science is crucial to advertising because it gives us a genuine framework for how consumers behave. Not how we think they behave or how they claim they behave, but what evidence from the most respected, high-profile scientists in the world have shown us is the case. So based on findings from people like Amos Tversky, Daniel Kahneman, Richard Thaler, Herbert Simon, 3 Nobel Prize winners there, based on their experiments, it shows us in a robust way how people actually behave. Now, I think it's not just that it's well-grounded science, it's also very relevant to advertising, because advertising is essentially trying to change the decisions of consumers, and behavioural science is at its heart the science of decision making. And then best of all, it also has a very broad range. So it's not like there is a single idea at the heart of behavioural science that you then have to apply to all different briefs, all your briefs you receive. Instead it's a range of different biases. There's 100 odd biases. You can therefore select the bias that is most appropriate for the particular problem you face. And I think that means that it's very well suited to advertising, because advertising is, of course, such a diverse thing. Favourite examples of a behavioural bias being applied is what I think arguably could be the greatest ad campaign ever. So it's for DeBeers, and it's DeBeers back in the 1930s, 40s. Now, when they launched, diamond rings were not a mainstream thing. When people gave engagement rings, there was likely to be sapphires or rubies as they were diamonds. Now, the first thing DeBeers did was associate the durability of a diamond with the eternity of true love. So there's a wonderful line from Francis Geraghty, "A diamond is forever." So they did that first of all. But there's a wonderful quote from Rory Sutherland in which he says that's just the second best line DeBeers ever had. The best line they ever created was one that was inspired by behavioural science. So it was the idea of saying you should pay a month's salary when you buy an engagement ring. And the brilliant thing about this is it uses the bias of anchoring. And what anchoring essentially means is you throw out a number, and however irrelevant that number is, people use it as a start point in their consideration. So if you say you should spend a month's salary on a diamond ring, most people will probably think, well, that's a little bit rich coming from a salesman, and they might adjust down. But what tends to happen, and this has been shown in the work of Tversky and Kahneman, what tends to happen is people don't adjust enough. So by throwing out this ridiculously large amount that supposedly people should spend on a diamond ring, DeBeers created this demand to spend a lot on diamonds. And what they brilliantly did over the subsequent years was raise that anchor, raise that benchmark. So by the 1960s, they were going out in America and saying you should spend 2 months' salary on a diamond ring, engagement ring. And then when they launched in Japan, they completely created this tradition of diamond engagement rings. They went out and said you should spend 3 months' salary on a diamond ring. And again, by increasing that benchmark, they got more and more people to spend. So, I said at the beginning, it's probably an example of being the best ad campaign ever, and I think it's true for 2 reasons. One, the sheer billions of pounds it's raised for DeBeers, but secondly, it's the perfect piece of advertising because diamond rings are no longer really a choice. DeBeers have been so clever that people think it's the natural thing to do to get a diamond ring. They don't even consider buying a sapphire or a ruby, and of course there's nothing natural about a diamond ring at all.